Welcome to Real Unreal Issues. It has been a week, month, well, year. If you're like me, you find yourself living in constant horror of current events. It's like living in a scary movie. In 2020, the news is being directed by John Carpenter, and the president is that guy from Home Alone 2.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
I know, pretty scary stuff. At least we can all take comfort in the fact that we're in this shit show, and I'm not talking cats, together. But our show is about more than solidarity through shared pain. It's about solidarity through art. We'll examine a current event through the lens of a movie that tackles a similar issue and see if we can make sense of it. And we need sense now more than ever. Because this week we've got a story that gives a resounding yes to the question, can things get worse? Last week, a federal appeals court passed a ruling that allows the Trump administration to terminate legal protections that have allowed hundreds of thousands of immigrants to live and work legally in the United States. The ruling effectively strips legal immigration status from 400,000 people, many of whom have been in the country for decades. This decision renders them deportable if they do not voluntarily leave the country and return to their unstable homelands. While our news story of the week may seem hopeless, we strive to look back at what people thought about it before the world went Gary Busey levels of crazy. And we do this through the lens of movies. So now, we turn our attentions to one of my favorite immigration movies.
America has opened her arms to those who dreamed of a better life, in search of opportunity, equality, and freedom. And so it is in this proud tradition that America once again welcomes her newest aliens.
The Coneheads was a recurring sketch on Saturday Night Live starring Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin from 1977 to 1979. The sketches chronicled the life of the titular extraterrestrial family living in an Earth suburb. Their alien antics, set against ordinary surroundings, became a comedy classic, so much so that the sketch was revived as a feature film in the 90s. Coneheads, 1993, follows two illegal aliens, Beldar and Primat Conehead, who are stranded on Earth and find themselves in pursuit of the American dream. They raise a daughter, start a business, and find an accepting group of friends, all while being relentlessly pursued by INS agents. The movie was a critical and financial failure, but in recent years, this lampoon of the immigrant experience has grown more and more prescient. What the Coneheads experience in America was meant to be comical, but for many modern people, it's life. For more opinions on this story and about the movie of the week, we go to the Real Unreal Issues panel. Joining us is Mary Roberts, a first-generation American here to discuss her connection to the immigrant experience, and James Fitzpatrick, film student and enthusiast. Now cue the wipe.
Scene one, apple, take one. Scene one, apple, take one.
Alright, so let's start off a little bit with talking about this terrible news story. What was your gut reactions when you first heard about it?
Me or my family aren't the type of immigrants that are being targeted with that new law, but I mean, it's still pretty hurtful to hear about, like, with any type of immigration, especially people that have lived their whole lives here.
Well, let's follow that line of thinking. Can you tell us a little bit more about your familial situation?
So my mom is a direct immigrant from Mexico, and I was born here, so I'm a natural birth U.S. citizen.
All right, interesting. So I suppose we should just jump into the question of the week, and it's, what did you two think of Coneheads?
I mean, as a movie, it's seated firmly at a 35 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think I would probably put it lower. But
Really?
I think so. But the idea that maybe it might have been a little bit of ahead of its time, in a way, I think is something to think about, because I feel like some of it, yes, was unintentional, but some of it was stretching the immigration issue of that time to a kind of like fantasy thing. And the crazy thing is that fantasy is kind of our reality now.
If you look at the Coneheads as a direct metaphor for immigrants in this country, I mean, everybody loves him. He's the best at what he does.
And I think the idea too of his kids being born on Earth, and you can actually see that difference in the way they speak and the way they act and the way they do things. I think that's a good contrast to immigrants who had children here.
Good morning, parental units.
Dawn greetings, young one.
What would you like for consumables? Pop-Tarts, chicken embryos, seasoned patties of ground animal flesh?
I'm not really hungry. Just some Tang.
Ah, Tang, the drink the astronauts took to the moon.
Astronauts to the moon.
I think that interestingly ties into your experience, Mary. You're a first-generation American. What did you think of the journey of Connie Conehead?
It was really relatable in that, I mean, I could really relate to how she felt very distant to like her parents' home planet. Like she'd never seen it. She didn't feel like she got there, she wasn't interested in it. She felt disconnected on a great level. And like I feel like I've experienced that. I mean, I have visited my parents' home country. I've lived in Mexico for various years, but because I've been there so much less, I do still feel that like cultural disconnect on a great level whenever I'm there.
But it's nicer than Mebulak. Nobody had to knarfel the Schnebnock.
It's nice to not have to knarfel the Schnebnock.
All right, so we think the metaphor works even if the movie doesn't. But I think when I was watching the movie, the thing that stuck out to me as being surprisingly prescient was the antagonist. You had INS Deputy Commissioner Gorman Seedling.
I'm suggesting we put these electronic collars on all the deportees. Then we bury a wire along the border, forming an invisible fence. Now, the next time this illegal tries to enter the country... Wow.
What did you guys think of Seedling? Remind you of anybody?
I was watching the other day, like this like right after Trump was elected and he was on his whole spiel about like how he planned to address immigration. They had an interview, I think it was the New York Times, with an ICE officer. And one of the big things people were afraid of is whenever they're searching for like illegal aliens to detain, they mostly go for people who are already criminals. But then in the process of that, they get, I think they call them casualties. And that's just regular people going about their lives. They just happen to like not have citizenship. And this guy was on this interview saying, well, I'm not worried about casualties. I'm not worried about these people that are just living their lives. I just want to get criminals. And in the middle of that interview, he gets a call, I think by his head officer. And he's like, I don't care if they're casualties or not. Get me 3 people in this week. I don't care who they are.
Yeah, what's up, man?
I don't care what you do, but bring at least 2 people in.
And like that came immediately to mind when I saw him. It was like really poignant.
I feel like the villains in this movie, it's a similar situation to the E.T. or the District 9, where it's just, it doesn't look like us, they don't act like us, they can't be with us. And then you have the people side of it, where it's never really even addressed that her head is 10 inches longer than everyone else's. Like, it's just, he just goes with it.
It's true. It's one of the biggest fictional elements. This is a world where even though the family's different, everybody likes and accepts them.
When it's all said and done, if you can separate the ridiculousness of the movie and the execution of the movie, I think there is something to be related to now more than ever in the story.
It's a kind movie. And while it's not the funniest comedy in the world, I think there is something positive to be said about that. And with that, we're done for the week on Real Issues. We know the world can be an overwhelming place right now. We encourage you to learn all you can about the current state of things. Be vocal. Stand up for what you believe in. But when things get too heavy, don't be afraid to sit down, relax, and watch a film. We can learn a lot from movies, but even if a film doesn't have any educational value, as Beldar and Primat Coneheads say, we will enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in. Stay sane out there.
Scene 1, Apple take 2.